Hey YouTube, Rick Marks here. I want to look at setting up for if you're starting out with business, small business in particular, and how you can reduce the numbers. So just quickly in the background, I'm going to punch in how many small businesses fail in the first year. And this statistic is a well-known one. I'm making sure I gain it and have the information. So 20% of starting small businesses will fail in the first year, and the failure rate increases to 30% at the end of the second year, and 50% by the 5th year, and 70% by the 10th year. So again, this is from my understanding, it's going to be an accumulation of that. So in the first year, you can take out 80%, and they're the ones that go through. Then, so where's our calculations? Got 100 businesses for argument's sake, and 80 of them go through to the second year. At the end of the second year, 30%, so 30% of 80. So we're going to do 70% go through, so 56 businesses now are still running the end of the second year. And then times 50%, so we're down to 28 in the third. Now I don't know if this is how the calculation works. Times by 30%. So fifth year. All right. So I don't know if this is how the statistics work on this particular calculation, but let's say year one this year, 100 businesses started, 80 will make it through next year of those that start, which means there are 20 that fold, close the door, whatever. In the second year, only 56 now are still in business. After the 5th year, only 28 of those are still in business. And in the 10th year, only 8.5 of those are still in business. So if that's how those statistics and those numbers are calculated, like I said, I don't know if it's accumulation or if it's saying of that 100%, that 70, well, what's that, 100% times, no, because that statistic would say 30 businesses in the 10th year are still in business, and I don't know if that's right. But more to the point is, why do they fail? Are they failing because of bad processes? Is it failing because of bad owners or sole traders? Are they failing because people just don't know how to run a business? And it can be harder than a lot of people realize. There's taxes, there's, you got to understand gross versus net, profits and losses, balance sheets. There's the list goes on of just basic fundamentals. And I myself, having run businesses before, I know that an accountant is not going to look after my interests. And I learned that going back. They don't know what I don't know. So in this instance, I had no understanding about depreciations. I'm learning about it now, and I'm like learning a lot about tax and benefits within business. But I didn't know any of the potential benefits or potential things I could claim. And if I didn't present it and they didn't think to ask it, then they fell by the wayside. And that's rightfully the case in reviewing, I suppose. So even though I decided to close up my electrical business, there's a lot of lessons that I've learned in hindsight looking back through it, that had I been a little bit more self-aware of the basics, I could have potentially had different outcomes. Again, not wanting to do the actual activity is probably a huge negative component of it, which wasn't going to help regardless of whether I was making $1 million or what. But I suppose in my review, I could have just stepped into running of the business, taken on a person to go and do the actual work, and I could have had it operate that way. I would have scaled quick and would have had to have done a lot of that back end. But again, learning all these lessons now, and I'm understanding it more. So I think, why do they fail? Funnily enough, on my question here that I've got to Google to get the statistic, the most common reasons small businesses fail include a lack of capital or funding, retaining an inadequate management team, a faulty infrastructure or business model, and unsuccessful marketing initiatives. And I think this is where either utilizing a network of people around you, and in Canberra there's a couple of them that they've all got skill sets, and I'm sure bouncing ideas over a coffee or something, they'd be able to either say, no, don't do that. But the reality is, nothing in life is good that's free. So paying for somebody to come in and to provide you some insight, even to get somebody to look over your business plan or your marketing proposal, or like what you're trying to do to get your business going, that's going to potentially help you reduce the fact that you might be tagging out at the end of the year. Inadequate management team, like, I'm a believer that you can learn anything. You can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. And like I said, a lot of mine didn't understand a lot of the basic fundamentals of what I was able to achieve as a small business. Like, I was claiming certain things, but when I'm looking at it now, I'm like, there was so much more that I didn't claim. And that's too late now, it's moved on, but I can learn for now and future, and utilize and help on to you guys and my clients, so that you guys don't all fall into that trap. So think about how you're setting yourself up, and it all starts at the beginning. And if you're building a house, for instance, you always make sure the foundations, and you'll often see land might sit for a period of time, like they'll clear it and get the leveling done, and then it'll sit, and it might sit for a month, 2 months, 3 months, could be 12 months. It again depends on surveyors and whatnot, and allowing the land to settle, and then they put their foundations in. And this is those core components where starting your business, set up those foundations. It takes the time, but again, are you doing this as a side hustle, or are you already launched? And I think a lot of people either prematurely launch because they think that the market's hot and now's the time to fly, rather than sitting there and making sure that they've got a sound plan. Because I'm lead building at the moment and seeing a lot of businesses that are no longer existent, and that makes me question again, did they set up correctly? Did they do the foundations? Think about that. If you want to reach out, chuck a comment below, reach out via DMs or something, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye for now.